All right, so we got the local militia, right? I think that's the best way to quantify it. You want to get the local policing system in the workforce program to base who's got the sergeant, who's got the private, who's got the heat vex guy, and whatever terminals locally on the crank local schematics for corn, local resources, rabbit population, and otherwise given your insurance to work output and what you can transition over ABAX relations to skills. And what you should be able to understand, at least if you can do that, how we'll be doing it over here, right? Because you watch an angry core guy, POV award guy, disarming dudes. I mean, this is not necessarily what the depicted model of what physics represents. When you have a local militia or standard like that who's doing something, I'd rather see it be the Marine that has the time off, a working job, regionally close to do that, taking post and increasing the local militia, local cops to stop robberies from happening immediately on the floor and maintaining the level of peaceful protest. Inside of a group, there's a group number that you should be able to do this around the guards, and the guards will be able to protect you against any outside interpretation. This has been shown. They've done things with Black Lives Matters and whole kinds of things way back on cases and systems where this was an original standard, and that's fine. And to tear down, original standards that were occupied and standard inside of that, it would be good to, anybody that's like local militia in here. This isn't just a policing standard. This is proper training combatives out there. You get local tie into the radio system, so fire system, if that's the closest house you got for it. It takes the Lions and the Masons and the Shriners and all that kind of Illuminati, skull and bone stuff, and really strips it down to the coffin factory, right? Whether you roll with a G or you don't roll with G, whether that G's a person, a way of teaching, or gravity in the sun, or none of those things. Anything, a wild card. It doesn't need to be a G. It could be an A at that moment, whatever. Uh, it's not necessarily pagan as much as it is that God's in the crack over there, and it's much the good and the bad and all that other happy. Entropy, happy entropy, chessboard game to get out of that with the proper time schematics, train A to B in the classroom to get the piece of paper that's worth it. All right, so anyways, uh, locally, there's a lot of reasons to do that with the workforce function, drug and alcohol functionings, standard models of education. It's fair to say that you've been blue lit a little bit, I think, but without a standard of what Stoichi, Maestri, whatever educational historical models of, you're going to have to build some of this if you want to be able to recognize a lot of that code transposition stuff, because certain languages, certain chemist to quantum physicist to engineer to Big Bang Theory, what's the XYZ in the marshmallow here, give me any one thing and there's an infinite Schrodinger ways to explain just its shape if it has any. I mean, there's infinite fractals on certain areas of just depicting its mass from here. If I didn't know any other, and then blindly looking at this without knowing this, but depicting that in the same angle differently, from that to, and you need all of that, whatever limits that, so it's general enough to fill that category, because that's used the particle, the wave function, the hearing test differential is what's been coming up lately. And so you try not to talk about it too much, but good thing for TV, right? Uh, certainly break your hymen the easy way. I mean, the whole thing is good for physics. I mean, you got Hellboy and Church and Hancock and via, COVID times, lockdown, high spread. This is the number buddy process physics to get things. Some of them Florida preachers and these other things you hear about is physical mass numbers that define whether it has spin, or I can tell anything from this because it's basically just one point. And if you don't know their real church structure, they might have some super scientists in the backlog that they've been dumping the donations into pro mod horse. Most time in the court case we can't get the time for the district right now. I triple booked. No, his ass is going to jail. I'm gonna make sure. Stanford experiment is a marshmallow experiment. They're all a marshmallow. They all Schrostringer. They all Schrostringer. You Schrostringer me to the point like Schrostringer right now. All right, I start Schrostringer. No, start right now. All right, Schrostringer right now. All right, so then you can get like multi any box has a ball, and those balls could be multiple references from distances from each other, and that's your first one. They're gonna create some masses and charges against each other, even if that's what the collision was in the aspect of the wave, if it was fields or the collision in there. And those are M1, M2 right there. And they also have M3 relations to how that specific action acts, where it specifically acts, if the first action defines the second action in the first field. Back to this. At any rate, all right, right now, okay, same thing, different. Like the first thing, you have two balls. That ball's EM field, and balls hit each other, and then you can just hit that again because that's the same number over and over and over again. You just have a whole course packed out to 10 hours. You want me to do 15 hours solid Schrostringer? It's all the same marshmallow to me. Air turbulence equation is N1 half at any step off at a parallel matrix to the design of the engineering that I want it to be. I needed to be stonemasons on the floor that catch irrational numbers, that tighten off the efficiency for themselves so they can get their own local places and bosses doing the numbers and teaching that, because that's the college. You want the housing dorm systems to kind of do what the company gets and who does the insurance and how many people you need to offset the census N1 half to all the companies. Kind of condense some of that. Still need a post office, some other stuff. Grocery stores work for this. McDonald's is fine. Lots of X bridge crew. Anyways, you get the stone milk. Then they just save out that $5 for them a week for Medicare, Medicaid. If they stay 40 years, if they leave, that's theirs to take. Yeah, I wish it could be just a subset of money just for them, and that way for certain standards of what the bar are causally. And you're gonna have to have some of that. I think when you look at the system, there's a lot of good ways to use it, and there's a lot of bad ways to use it. I don't think that's something you should bank the stock on the net is. That's your money. That is what that is. It's supposed to be for this outside time of that, but it is your money. You saved up all this. You worked for all of this. It's supposed to be something at the back end that here. I'd rather some of that dry up or at least have a harder hand that describes it. Something a little bit more stiffer on be busy. The jumping around on fishing and landscaping and costs for lunch and company cars and all that other stuff about local resources and ways to accompany the mailman and do engineering about some of this stuff. And who, what, when, where, and why, with what we got on the board to do it. So we're going to get exactly where I started for my thing here. Probably good note. So we're always the heat vacs guy, always the thermodynamics guy. That's what they just turn into. This is the laws of thermodynamics. You're a thermaler. Okay, great. You're not a manager. You're not any of that. That's this right here. That's this right here. If you'd like to make this position what that is, you have to do certain sub things inside of this that equal out the causal on what that is over a certain time period on the test. Plinko Minimax bouncing down the rail here, and obviously the prison system and the vote YouTube. I mean, here's that I want Senate like this. And that's like, I got nothing to disagree with that. I'm going to send this guy a copy, what I heard. Hey, people are telling me about this other guy's response on this. Anybody in the world, I don't need to be a senator necessarily, but where that vote comes in needs to be hubbed in some way. And that does need to be militarily protected with code type systems from NSA levels. I have one personally. There's a need for some of that, not just the science base, which is a good way to get you there. And I'd love to teach you. There's so many different variations on it. I'm not necessarily worried about you hacking my local key or designing any kind of AI computer that's going to be able to hack that for you. That becomes a brute force problem. Why can't an AI supercomputer blue pump out the result in a supercomputer for the treadline result in the same way Jordan does? Red blue shifted to the value and college courses for physics FMA bars and lots of bars in an area, given the parallaxing effect. Let's put one bar here in the mousetrap and a bunch of them over here. Like this is the chute that they're going through. I'm going to put that there. Huh, go figure. Kind of like